Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In this episode, we will review Tetris, now streaming on Apple TV Plus, starring Taron Egerton, and it's based on a true story of the making of the popular game. This was a pretty good movie. Dylan, let's start with your thoughts.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. Tetris, we kind of overlook as a pioneer in the gaming industry. But back then, it was very revolutionary for the time. And it went hand in hand with the Game Boy, as we see in this movie. There were certain parts of the movie that felt a little bit dramatized, but for the most part, I felt it was pretty loyal to the real-life story. And Taron Egerton really, he had a solid performance as Henk Rogers, the owner of Bulletproof Software. And the rest of the cast was great as well. But yeah, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like, again, you need a strong lead, but I felt like the rest of the cast was pretty strong as well. Probably the least strongest parts are the stuff that have to do with his family. Sometimes I didn't care. It's just, you kind of care because that's his wife and daughter. But I feel like he had a really nice energy and a nice charm to his character. So yeah.
It's strange to hear his American accent too.
Is it weird? Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was in a different show, I believe, on Apple TV Plus with Ray Liotta. So I guess they like him there on Apple TV. But yeah, it's really cool to see the editing as well. I thought the editing that actually surprised me. Yeah. They had a lot of animations, graphics and stuff like that. But what did you think about? Because I guess this is your first time being exposed to the making of Tetris. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was surprised at how many kind of hoops and ladders they had to go through just to publish this game. It's like you don't really think about that sometimes. Now it's regular for us. Yeah. Now we look at IPs and there's so many copyright and licensing issues now. But back then, I mean, just for this very, very basic 16-bit console game, you don't think about that all the things that went behind it, right? Just for the publishing of it. And it's really extraordinary seeing it on screen. And yeah, I agree. Henk Rogers definitely carried the story in terms of he's this kind of Steve Jobs guy trying to make a name for himself, and then he kind of discovers, or he stumbles upon this revolutionary game at an expo, and then he kind of think it's the next big thing, right? It's going to take over the whole industry. And it was wonderful to see how far he was willing to go to get this out there and get it in people's hands. He even put his house up for collateral. Yeah. I thought that was really ballsy of him. But yeah, I mean, we also had the very sleazy characters like the Maxwells, and that's actually a true thing. They were actually, I heard they had a lot of shady shit going in behind the scenes, and they I think they even forfeit a lot of pensions back then for their company.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was great to see that on screen. The Russian parts were a little bit too, it felt movie-ish at times, but
yeah,
maybe that kind of just added to the drama of it. I mean, also, it was kind of hand in hand with the whole breaking of the USSR and kind of all these new revolutionary ideas coming in, right? But it kind of also speaks about how the West was kind of influencing things at the time, and especially in the gaming industry. You think about Tetris as also a revolutionary idea, right?
Well, and I love also the original concept really came from Alexey, and I thought that there was such a nice respect between just two nerds, and it's kind of speaking about the American dream and bringing that to Russia, and not everybody can pursue that, right? They're forbidding to pursue that as well. I think it was a little bit too drama-yummy in some parts, honestly. I was but I think that also went hand in hand. It really helped flesh out the stakes as well, because maybe in real life it was probably really boring what happened. If we actually look to accountants back then, it was
right.
Not
it's
much.
You might as well just watch a documentary drama, yeah. Right? But here it's kind of made for television. It kind of had this kind of Argo feel to it.
Yes, it did. Yeah, but it felt for some reason it felt pretty family friendly. I mean, the F words and stuff aside, for some reason it did feel family friendly. So if you guys are worried if this movie's kind of boring, it actually isn't. It's actually I just stayed with it. And it was pretty. It kind of feels like if Robert Zemeckis directed this movie. He'll like the Forrest Gumpy type of, things that they do. It feels like that. It's also like a movie about like the underdog, just one man trying to have this dream and pursue it, and then against all odds they succeed. So it was a pretty well fleshed out movie, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of also had like Scott Pilgrim vibes too.
Oh
with the whole graphics thing, like being integrated too.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it is a movie about a video game, right? So it's like they found fun ways to incorporate that kind of digital theme into the movie. A lot of the transitions, like from locations, are like these little digital things, and it really is fun to play with in the movie. So it holds your interest, like as you're watching. It's not just totally like live action serialized, right? But yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was really, telling everybody's story, right? Not just Tetris's. I mean, we saw like Nintendo, the whole console war between Nintendo and Atari, which was actually a real thing back then, and how they were, in a way, it's kind of like symbolizing kind of like the Cold War, but like it's like a shadow war between like consoles, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You don't really think about it, right? Because everything's like politicized, but then like there's these companies working in the background that are kind of setting up these things that now we see in like modern day. I think that's just so interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if they could make a sequel, like it's PlayStation versus Xbox versus PC, and it's like Secret Invasion with Samuel Jackson, where you know what I mean? I don't know, maybe they can make the next movie on like the making of Marbles, the game, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Well, what did you think actually of seeing like the live action, like the first Nintendo
that was
game,
so cool.
Game Boy?
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool to see.
I'm a big gamer, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like a big history buff when it comes to the making of these games back in the day. And they went through so much trouble, and it blows my mind, really. How did they come up with this? How did they do it? And it's so cool to see interpretations of that through these characters and even engineers. We see some scenes of that. It was really, really cool. Like actually, this is a good introduction. If anybody wants to get into the history of making games, then they probably will watch this and try to see that for themselves.
Yeah, they even break down like terminology, like really specific things that we as gamers know, like the difference between like a PC and a console, right?
Yeah.
And how it can be like very dodgy if you don't think about it. But they're two very different things, right? And I like that they go into the history of it, and they kind of show like the foundations of a lot of things. And that's why I love the inclusion of like the Game Boy, because that's also like a historical moment too, where like the handheld market is this very new idea, right? Back then there was mainly like arcades and consoles, right? A few PC games too, but it's like the handheld market really revolutionized, everything. And I love that quote that Rogers said. He was like, if you want to package the Game Boy with Mario, it'll sell for little kids. But if you want to package this with Tetris, it's going to be a global phenomenon.
Wow, and it sure is. It's crazy. I never really had much respect for Tetris, but I think this looking at all the indies now, looking at everything, it's like these people go through so much work and so much legal loopholes and stuff, and always getting screwed over. It really gave me perspective. And I think that's cool. I think they succeeded in this movie. I'm really glad. I feel like this is a solid movie, to be honest with you. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's very enjoyable for kind of like a docudrama. I mean, lengthwise, it was a little bit on the longer side. It was like a 2-hour movie, but it still kind of holds your interest because you kind of want to see it through the end,
right,
and see how this plays out. There's a lot of like things that Henk Rogers had to go to just to even get the licensing, right? Not even just like selling it, just to get the the rights to produce this game. But I think it was wonderful, and as we said, all the actors were great. Even the incorporation of the Tetris theme, I thought was cool. Like in certain action scenes, I thought they should have went more into like how they got the theme. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall solid movie, man. I'd probably give this 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it a 9 and 10 too. I really enjoyed this movie, guys. I think you should check it out. But that is our review for Tetris. Again, now playing on Apple TV Plus. If you like this video, please make sure to drop a like and also check out our other reviews. We're really busy this month, all right, if you're new to the channel. But Dylan, take us away.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen our update already, we're swamped.
I'm sweating. I feel like Henk right now, like trying to get everything.
Just trying to get our channel off the ground, right? But yeah, we have plenty of content out already. Check out our movie reviews, TV reviews. We also have, speaking of video games, Summer Game Fest is approaching very soon in the near future.
Oh man!
So we will be covering that as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until then, thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys.